Do you ever feel like your limitations, your health issues, your lack of resources, or maybe you're being stuck at home disqualify you from making a difference? Do you feel like you can't do anything because of your situation? I used to think that I would kind of never amount to anything in life. And see, I've never really had any real talents that I would thought would have made any real difference or would have mattered or done anything new in the world. It wasn't until God actually made it clear to me, or he called me and he put me to work for him in ways that I never would have expected, y'all. But the truth is, he can do the same for you. See, for me, he raised me up to be a leader at work. He's called me to pastor a church. He's taught me and allowed me to be able to stream to many people out there and possibly be making an impact. He's blessed me with the opportunity to serve a wife for almost 29 years now. And so looking back, maybe I questioned my value. Maybe I wondered what I was here for, my purpose, until I realized that God's hand is out there and it's calling each of us to invest the talents that he gives us and to do just as he teaches in today's word, which is going to come to us from Matthew chapter 25. That this matters to us and to Innovate Church because we are a digital church. And so many in our community, or many of you that are out there listening to us, you may be homebound, or you may opt for a virtual gathering instead of a physical gathering for other reasons. And so in your own limitations, you might even feel like you're so limited that God can't use you. But this is the learning today, is that Jesus' call to us to use our talents applies to everyone. And the truth of the matter is that God has given each believer something to contribute, some part to play in the kingdom. But first off, again, you can find this parable in Matthew chapter 25, and it's verses 14 through 30. And like I said, I'm not going to read it, but I'm going to tell you the story. Jesus is telling the story of a master who he's leaving and he's going out of town and he's going to be gone for some time. And so he leaves what is called talents with some of his servants. Talents is usually a large sum of money. Technically, it's a weight, but it's actually the measurement of the weight of silver. And so to each servant, he gives a certain amount to. He gives one of them five talents. He gives another one 2 talents and another one 1 talent. And in the text, it says, according to his ability. And while he's gone, he's expecting these talents to be put to use, to be invested. And so the text goes on, it's like after a long time, the master returns. And you see, what you may or may not know is this text is actually following where the disciples were questioning Jesus upon his return. Jesus had already told them that he's going to be going away, and they want to know, well, when are you coming back, basically? And he goes on and he tells them, be ready. Be ready because the master can return at any time. But Jesus is kind of talking about the in-between time whenever he has ascended into heaven and when he returns again. What are we supposed to do? And then he drops this parable, this story of the master leaving talents behind to be cared for by his servants. And so he gives the money to these 3 servants, and 2 of those servants, they invest his money and they multiply what they've been given. But the 1 servant, he buries his talent. He returns it unused. And the parable tells us because he was afraid. And so he went and buried it, where the other 2 took, the one that had 5 talents took his talents and he multiplied it twice until he got 5 talents in return. The other one with 2, he returned 4 talents in return. And so the parable here, again, is it highlights the expectation of active investment of whatever it is that God entrusts you with. And he goes on and he divvies out, so to speak, a reward. And it is that reward that all of us want to hear at the end of our lives, and that is, well done, good and faithful servant. But in this text, he also issues a warning. You see, he calls the one that had buried his talent and didn't put it to use. He calls him worthless and has him thrown out into outer darkness because of his inactivity. So the great moral story here is that we are to be at work until the master returns, right? We are saved. We are put to use. We are created for good works, the Bible tells us. And we've been given different gifts to put to work. And though we have different gifts, we still all have the same expectation. You see, he didn't give out the gifts equally in the story, did he? He gave one of them 5, one of them 2, and the other one 1. But the text said, according to their ability. You see, what you need to understand is no matter what your circumstances is, God has already taken that into account. And he has still gifted you with talents, gifts, and abilities. And he has still put the requirement on you to do good deeds. And see, God doesn't require identical results from everyone, as we see in the story. But what he does require is faithfulness, to be good stewards of what it is he's given us. We all have differing gifts, but we're all vital in the body of Christ. In fact, if we're not doing our part in the body, then we have allowed the body to not live up to its full expectation. And see, our physical, our logistical, our emotional limitations, they don't disqualify us from fruitful service. And in the story, you know, the third servant, he had fear and doubt. See, he feared failure or punishment because the text says, he says, I know that you're a harsh master. The good news is we know that Jesus isn't harsh, but he does expect us to be busy, to be about his work, because his work is saving many from this world. But again, the main thing and the main encouragement here is to try something, to be intentional about it, to intentionally do something new. Try to do something with whatever talent you may already know that you have. Or again, try something just to see if you have a talent in it. You don't know sometimes until you actually get involved in it. A term that I read today was obedient experimentation. It means start somewhere and let God guide you in discovering your talents. You have no excuse not to at least try something. And so I kind of put together this list, and it's not an exhaustive list or anything, but if you look in the description on YouTube, and I've actually posted in our Discord as well, 20 things that what I'm saying a homebound person can do as examples. You see, success is less about the outcome and more about obedient faithfulness. How many of us have started something and then just set it away, forgot about it, gave up on it? Maybe it's time for you to get back to it. Maybe it's time for you to go out there and unbury or dig up that talent. Have you buried your talent? Have you forgotten about it? Let me encourage you, go dig it up. Go find it. What has God placed in your hand? Skill, time, what influence or resources that he's given you that you can invest? You see, that time one, that's another one that I believe that we are all given. What are you doing with it? How are you stewarding your time for the kingdom? So as you ask yourself these questions about talents and skills and time and all that, seek to identify one that you have been burying or neglecting. And then I want you to step out in faith. Put it to work. Trust God to do a work with whatever it is, however small it is. What's going to motivate you? What do you want to hear? Well done, good and faithful servant.